All right, team, welcome back to another episode of Momentum. I'm your host, Big Les, joined by Jake Marchetto as always. Jakey, what's been on for the week for you, mate?
Mate, had a busy weekend, was up in Brisbane all day Saturday training the RNC athletes, which was cool. Got to meet some of the boys that I hadn't seen in a while since the combine. So that was my whole Saturday. Sunday was a bit slower, but I'm looking forward to talking some footy tonight and some of the big headlines that have come out over the weekend.
Just quickly on the RNC, mate, it's something that I've always been intrigued with, obviously, since this has started up. How do you go about training these guys? Is it really focused on that tackle technique? What's the process with training these guys for something like Run Nation?
Well, it's a lot of it is based now off technique, right? So the first times I had seen it, it was a bit kamikaze. Then obviously Shandor Earl, who used to play for, I think he had stints with the Roosters, the Raiders, and the Storm, and Penrith too. Sorry, and Shandor obviously from the footy fraternity reached out, and we had a discussion. We've kept in touch over the years, and I got brought on board because I put some ideas forward, and Trey, who's the owner, liked what I sort of put forward. So we're just teaching the athletes now a lot of the technical based stuff in taking a hit up, how to protect themselves, timing, technique, which they all have a background in because most of them are rugby league players. But it's just about fine tuning it to make it as safe and healthy as possible for the athletes to participate in.
Well, cool. You've obviously going up to Brisbane very soon. Any big names that we should be looking out for? Any, I guess, guys that are new coming into this event?
I think the most well-known I could put out there for you is two fellas. So Semi Osa, he won the Run It Straight challenge a couple of years back. He's pretty well known in this space. And Tifa, big Tifa, he played for the Campbelltown team in the most recent nines. He played with Curtis Scott, Jared Hayne. He's a big heavyweight. And he's sort of setting the tone at the moment, and he's ready to compete up in Brisbane. He won RNC 2, so he's got a bit of momentum going into this one, which is really exciting.
And where do people go for their tickets if they want to get a ticket to the event?
Mate, RNC on the on Instagram, obviously there's a link through there, but any of the participants, even myself, we have discount codes and links on our pages. So whichever way you sort of go, you can get hooked up and be a part of the night up in Brisbane.
Well, get involved, guys. It is the fastest growing sport in the world at the moment, and it is only going to get bigger and bigger. Just quickly, before we get stuck into the news, on-track meals are obviously leveling up your nutrition game. If you want to obviously get that summer bod, obviously through the winter, we sort of start to tone up and get ready for the summer again. So if that's you, make sure to get stuck into your on-track meals, 10% off with the code MOMENTUM. Also, you've got Breathe-Ease as well, 10% off with the code MOMENTUM. Obviously, the nose tape, the mouthpiece as well, really good for recovery, so get stuck in. But big news throughout the week, obviously, Jarome Luai, he has made the trip up to PNG. They played on Thursday night. He went up on Friday and stayed right through to a Sunday, I think I heard on Bloke. But really good to see players starting to get intrigued by PNG and the living conditions, what it's going to look like to play there. They've got all the money in the world, all these new sides. What are your thoughts, Jakey? What are your thoughts on Luai heading up, and can we see some more players heading up there as well?
I definitely think we'll see some players start to head up. Obviously, they need to put a roster together for the 2028 season. I think we're going to start to see the beautiful world of the business side of rugby league now. As you can see, Luai's taken the first step, which I think is exciting. Even though the Tigers are flying, he's playing good footy. They've got a really, really good vibe in it, the Tigers at the moment. And I hope no headlines sort of come around. And it looks like there's a little bit trying to dictate, what could happen due to these clauses and this and that. But at the end of the day, mate, footy's footy. It's a business now. And as I said, and what you alluded to before, we will begin to see more players start to go up there and have a look around because they need to put a roster together.
And you look at the Tigers as well. What's funny is that they've just had the last couple of weeks without Luai. Luai's only just come back into this team. And they've won majority of those games with Madden in there at 6. So maybe at the start, a couple of years ago when Luai came over from the Penrith Panthers, they needed a guy like Luai, a big name, getting other big names over to the club to build a really successful roster. And this is no disrespect to Luai, but now I almost feel like the way that they're playing, they've got a side now that is still competitive, even if Luai is to drop out. So there's almost room for Luai to maybe take a 1.2, 1.3 and go over to PNG. And I think the Tigers will be still a competitive outfit in the NRL.
Yeah, well, mate, and that comes back to culture, which I think he's led also. Obviously, having that class of play that is there now, but he's brought a lot of culture to that joint, and it looks like it's humming at the moment. And to his credit, the culture that he has set, even when he hasn't been playing, they've turned up in one game. So it just sort of shows, I guess, what kind of teammate he is and what he actually does bring to your squad. So I've got no doubt that's probably why the PNG team are looking for someone like that. He's still at the top of his game, still a very high profile player. And if they can land a signature of Jarome Luai, I've got no doubt that a couple other players will sort of follow him up there.
All right. Well, look, we'd be keen to see over the next couple of weeks, obviously lining up with buys and whatnot, who are the players to go over there. Callum Ponga throughout the week re-signed with the Newcastle Knights as well for an extra 2 seasons. So he's there right through till the end of 2030, which is really good for Newcastle. Obviously, that means he won't be going out there and checking it out. You'd have to think. So Luai's one. I think Jacob Preston comes off contract at the end of 27. So that'll be interesting. I think you could definitely do well with a guy like him. I think Joey Manu's been linked to PNG throughout the week as well, coming back from Rugby Union, which I think that would be an awesome signing. You get him in to play him at fullback and he just carves. But there are plenty of players that will be available, mate, and I'm really excited to see who are a couple names that end up there. Craig Bellamy throughout the week, mate, has stood down from the advisory role with New South Wales. Now, I thought that this had happened a little while ago. Maybe it was just a rumour that it could have happened. But it looks like he's stood down from that role. And look, with how Melbourne are going at the moment, it makes a ton of sense that he'd make this final and stand down from that role.
Yeah, it's very logical, and I think it's very calculated. Bellamy looks like he's probably, we've seen him blow up before, but I think this is the first time in a long while he's actually been under pressure. And in no way, no means do I think he's going to get sacked from his job. He is the Melbourne Storm through and through, Craig Bellamy. But just at the moment, they just don't look like they can get themselves out of this hole. And, their big key players are just looking around sort of, and asking the questions and they're not getting the answers back. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the Melbourne Storm go through this origin period. Like you would think Cameron Munster and Harry Grant are shoo-ins. But Billy Slater's known throwing a curveball at his team and blowing it up and putting it back together. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens over the next, 4 to 5 weeks.
Yeah, 100%. For me, if Munster wasn't confirmed captain of Queensland a week or so ago, I don't know if I'd have him playing with the form that he's been in to start the year. He's been pretty poor, and what we'll talk about when we break down the game, but what Tallis Duncan was able to do to a guy like Cam Munster on the weekend, like if they picked Tallis Duncan on the right edge for the Blues, Munster's going to be in all sorts.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, like, Slater gave DCE a chance to come in and retain his jersey. Obviously, didn't go to plan for DCE, and then he ended up bringing Dearden in. I think Munster will play game 1 at least, depending on how he plays and what the result is, may determine if he plays 2 or 3 possibly.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think they've named him captain, so I wouldn't say they've forced their hand, but I think it's pretty obvious that they're going to go the way of Munster. And I think they'll go pretty similar to what they had gone with last year. Obviously, with the injuries, they'll make changes, but yeah, it will be. It'll be really interesting, mate. We'll obviously get stuck into that game when we do break down the games. But before that, we are going to go through our origin sides for Queensland. We're going to get stuck straight into it. It's a good little segue there. I will start with you, mate. What does your Queensland 1 to 19 look like?
Let me just get it up here. Are you able to read it out?
Yeah, I can read it out.
You just read it out for us because it made the changes.
Sweet as. So, based off the changes here, you've got Walsh at fullback. You've got Cobbo and Holmes on the wings. You've got Rob Toya and Hammer in the centres. Munster Dearden halves. You have got Carrigan in the front row with Tino. You've got Harry Grant at 9. You have got Kulakefu Finafiliaki and Jarome Wainanai there in the back row. You've got Ruben Cotter at 13. And then your bench is Ezra Mam, Lindsay Collins, Mo Fodawaker, Helam Lukey. And then you have got Callum Ponga and Kate Well in jerseys 18 and 19. I don't mind it. Very similar to years past. I think Cobbo will do a serviceable job for you as well. I just think that they will go a little bit more off form. I personally don't think Val Holmes is getting picked this year. Even though he's a good player for Queensland, and he has a month to turn his footy around before we even play. The ball's kicked for State of Origin, but I just don't know if Val's gonna get picked. Walk us through your mindset in picking Cobbo and Holmes on the wings.
Well, I've watched Cobbo this year, mate, and he has been doing an immense amount of work out of yardage. He's a big body. I think he's earned the right to put himself in contention, and I like Cobbo. I think he's one of those game breakers. He reminds me of Greg Inglis in so many ways, and I think if he had the opportunity to get back into the Origin arena, we could see another level of his play. Now, my decision on Val Holmes. Val Holmes is an out-and-out rep player, in my opinion, right? He's always done what needed to be done when he's put the Queensland jersey on. Now, I know his form hasn't been well. Now, that comes back to the culture at the Dragons before Dino got in there. It comes back to probably him not playing with a lot of confidence and not able to express himself on the rugby league field as he would like. And as you just stated, he has 4 weeks to prove himself. I honestly think Slater will pick him due to the fact of what he's done before. They won the series with him playing in centre last year. And if he can put and string some games together with form going into the series, I think we'll find him there. But there was Murray Tuolungi as well. But I just think Val Holmes, how important game one is to win, to have that experience. We've all, Cobbo's on the other wing, who's probably not the most experienced outside back in the Origin arena. I didn't want to have him and Tuolungi on both edges, so I thought Val Holmes would be, the safer pick, I suppose, with the more experience and be able to help that back line out.
Look, just a bit of a spoiler, I guess, for my team too. We've both got Ezra Mam at 14. I've loved the footy that Ezra Mam has played over the last couple of weeks, and I just feel like he's a guy that can break a game open on the coming off the bench. You don't know where he's going to come onto the field. He can come on in a couple of different roles, and he can really change your game for you for sure.
Yeah, mate, he's earned that role, and obviously you want him to have that game one Origin experience in case it doesn't go their way and a change with Munster does take place. He's already got that game one, sort of, I suppose, momentum underneath his belt, being involved in the team already. His voice will be heard. He'll be able to, I've got no doubt, get some reps in even at 9 or possibly in the halves at some stage in case there is an injury. They want to run simulations where anything can sort of happen with those sorts of players, so they do have an understanding on who's going to be on the field at certain times and what position. So I think Ezra Mam is a very, very healthy choice at 14.
And Kurt Catewell on the 6-man. Walk me through it.
I just think Kate Wells, that bloke who's got the calm head. He's done it before. He looks like he's so relaxed, and I think it would be good just to have him in camp. Now, I was also tossing up having one of the young blokes from the Cowboys, as in Chester, or who's that they just re-signed for the next 5 years?
Jackson Purdue.
Yeah, Purdue. But I just think to have, as I said, game one's such a big game, to have those sort of, mixed revolter blokes and sort of guys that have been there before but haven't been as consistent where Capewell has been, I think that's just a bit more of a smarter selection in my opinion.
I'll read you out mine, and I have gone for a couple of guys that we've spoken about over the last couple of weeks, and my bench is definitely a lot different to what yours is. My backline's pretty different to what yours is as well, so I'm keen to read this out and get your thoughts. But my Queensland team, I've got Reece Walsh at fullback. I've got Jojo Fafita on the right wing. I've got Murray Taulagi on the left. I've got Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow on the left centre position. I've got Rob Toya on the right. I've got Munster at 6. I've got Dearden at 7. I've got Tino and Paddy Carrigan up front. Harry Grant at 9. I've got Helam Lukey playing on the right side with Jaden Sewer playing on the left side. I've got Ruben Cotter at 13. And then my bench is Ezra Mam, Max Plath, Lindsay Collins, Tom Gilbert. And then to round out the 6-man bench, I've got Kulakefu, Finafuiaki, and Callum Ponga.
Rightio, you have gone a little bit different and a good mix there.
Yeah, I've gone pretty different. I mean, the standout's obviously the back line, right? Jojo Fafita's in there. I think that there's definitely a lot of ways you can go with this back line. You've gone, obviously, Cobbo. I feel like Murray Taulungi's probably been, I'd argue, out of the lot, probably the form winger in the games that he's played. I think he's been really good for the Cowboys. Again, you talked about yardage game. I think that he's probably been one of the better ones when you're looking at this selection pool at the moment and the guys that are in and available. I think that he's been really good. I think you've got to have him there on that left wing. Him and Hammer would build a really nice little combo. And then the right side, I've gone for the two rookies, but I also think when it comes to the yardage, just on the play 2 and 3s, Jojo's been really good. The games that he's had on the wing in the past have been great. And just thinking back to last year when we were all shocked that Billy Slater had picked Rob Toyer in the centres, and then we looked at the stats and he was the statistically best defensive centre in the competition at that stage. He was playing some decent footy for the Roosters, but it was his first year, so no one obviously expected him to come in. This is Jojo Fafita's third year in first grade. He's really played some good footy for the Gold Coast Titans. I think he's gone under the radar because he's a Gold Coast Titans player. And I do think that when it comes to not only the defense on that side, alongside a really good defensive player in Toya, but aerially, very, very talented. He scored some great tries over the last couple of weeks. I think when you're looking at form, if you're picking purely off form, I think these two have been probably the best. But that's just my opinion, though. What are your thoughts on me picking in my boy Jojo Fafita?
No, I like it. Off form, he definitely has his hat in the ring. I just put this to you. I think Cobbo's a game breaker. I think he's got tremendous X factor. And I'm not taking anything away from Jojo Fafita, but we've seen what Cobbo could do 2-3 years ago. And I think he's starting to build back that confidence in that. He's already signed an extension with the Dolphins for another year. So, he's going to be in a nice, calm, relaxed place. And as I said, coming out of yardage, I've watched what he's been doing. There's been times where they've shifted the ball to him and he's scored a couple of really good tries. He's put himself into position to really help the Dolphins team out. And mate, if you look at Cobbo, if there's an injury in the back line, you can put him at fullback. You can put him in the centres. The way that my bench is sort of done also, like I've got Capel there, he can go back row, centre, middle if you need him to. You've got Ponga who can come anywhere in the back line if there's an injury. So like a lot of my selections are strategic based as well, and I just think Cobbo is just that little bit ahead of Jojo Fafita due to experience and already being involved in that arena.
Yeah, for sure. And look, I can definitely see a world where Cobbo's picked over Jojo. I just think you've got Hammer there for a reason. Like Hammer can go into anywhere in that back line as well. Fullback, centre, wing if there's injuries and whatnot. I've got Ponga there as well on my 6-man. I've got in my squad, I've put together a 21-man squad, and I've got Jackson Purdue in jersey 20. So if there's injuries before kickoff, he comes straight in. I've also got Phil Sami in and around the workings there too for the Gold Coast Titans. I feel like he's been really good, so he'd be a guy that I wouldn't be shocked to see in and around the side as well, particularly the back line. I want to throw another name to you, mate, that we both don't have in our sides, but before the last 2 weeks, I think Dane Gagai has been a massive guy that's flown under the radar in regards to his form at the Newcastle Knights, particularly when they were winning that long stretch of games. He tore up. There was that 1 week against Canberra. He had an absolute blinder against Ethan Sanders, got 12 tackle busts against him. He had some really good weeks after that and before that as well. I feel like Dane Gagai is a guy that we might be overlooking due to his age. But when it comes to Origin, he's always up for the contest. So I wouldn't be shocked to see a guy like Dane Gagai in this squad too. What are your thoughts?
100%. Gags is a great player, especially at rep level. Every time he's played for Queensland, he's grown an extra leg. So a lot of the selections, when they get closer, like when you see the team sort of start to take shape and you see names that get thrown out there, you're like, well, that's okay. Like that's a logical selection. There's not too, they don't really get it wrong when they're picking the teams, I don't think. Some of it's got to do sometimes, I feel, with how well they can have their bench balance. But obviously now you get 2 extra players on the bench. So there's going to be, maybe 1 or 2 guys that are sort of get thrown in there that maybe we haven't heard from before. But pardon me. But if Dane Gagai were to get, a centre position or even named on the bench or even just being in the squad to add a little bit of experience and some calmness around the squad for the week, it wouldn't surprise me at all.
I have in my squad Max Plath. I've got him on my bench along with Ezra Mam. I think with the 6-man bench, you've got the freedom to pick a couple of smaller forwards and extra utilities as well. I think you've just got the freedom to pick a couple of these extra guys. So realistically, the 4 guys I think that would get used on game day would be Plath, Collins, Gilbert, and Finafuayaki, that obviously coming in as a debutant for the Dolphins. Max Plath, I think, can back up Harry Grant at 9. I also think there's a world where Grant comes off the bench and Plath starts at 9, just to take the sting out of the game too.
Do you really?
Yeah, just to take the sting out of the game, and then Grant comes on around tired ruck and just goes skits and plays the last 60. Like, I think there's a genuine world where we sort of see that they go for something a little bit different. Because Plath is that just hard going. He's usually a lock forward, but when he plays 9, it's just get to your kick, get through the tough stuff, really solid in his defense. And I think if for the first 20 minutes of a game, you could really take the sting out of the game by having a Plath there, and then you move Plath to 13 and have a guy like Harry Grant coming off the bench and really starting to do his magic for the last 60 minutes. But look, I think realistically you'll see Grant start, but I do think Plath as an option for 9, 13, you can play him through the middle of the field, play similar to Kurt Mann, and we saw how well Kurt Mann played last year. I think Plath is definitely a guy you'll see on the bench, in my opinion. What's one of the reasons why you have gone in a different directions with a couple of bigger boppers?
I like big bodies on the bench. I think it brings intimidation, and that's what you need at Origin level. And if you look, the big bodies that I have on the bench, I'm pretty sure it was Collins and Lukey. Like, Collins is an out-and-out front rower. Lukey's an out-and-out back rower. Can play in the middle if you need to create some ruck speed, I suppose, but is known to be on the edge. And then I've also got I've got Mam obviously at 14. So those sorts of guys, they just, I think, like, even Mam's sort of, he's pretty solid and a strong defender for a 6 as well. So I like to have those sorts of guys that have those big frames, but are also able to, come out of the line and, put a shot on if they need to, or, really solid at taking a, hit up off your 10-meter line. Like, those 2 big bodies, that's invaluable in Origin, mate, because most of the time you're coming out of your inside your 30, you just need to put your hand up, bite down on the mouth guard and go through the middle of people.
Yep, 100%. I'm just looking to see if we have any more differences. I've got Helam Lukey starting with Jaden Sewer. You didn't have Jaden Sewer in your side, did you?
No, I didn't. I assumed, I just assumed they were sort of like, part of my looking was I looked at the series and from last year, and obviously they won. So a lot of my stuff too come back to how they usually pick most of the squad anyway off what the series was like the year before. And Queensland did win. That was part of my Valentine Holmes pick also. So that's sort of why I went in that direction. And mate, Sewer's also put his hat in the ring. And the best thing about Sewer, he's coming out of a cannon.
Yeah, 100%. That's the reason I picked him. I think that, he was in there last year at a stage. He was in there the year before as well. I really like the Jaden Sewer pick. I think that he'll come in and do well. I think he's been arguably one of the Dragons' best players too.
Yeah, I agree.
So he's been really good. You have Jarome Nanai in there as well in the back row. He's obviously played only 1 game yet. He's got a couple of games to prove himself for State of Origin.
Yep.
I am just looking at the back rowers that they have available at the moment. They've obviously got Lukey, they've got Jaden Sewer, they've got Finafuayaki. I just feel like even if Nanai comes and plays about a 6 out of 10 week to week and proves his fitness, I feel like there's just a couple of guys that are better. And albeit for the Cowboys on the weekend, the 2 first runs that he had was unbelievable. Had an offload in one and had a really good long range break in the other. I just would go a different way. I feel like you've got Lukey there, who's played unbelievable for the Cows. You've obviously got Jaden Sewer there, who's quite tough. You got Finafuayaki off the bench, who's just been insane for the Dolphins. I just feel like Nanai's going to be a little bit unlucky. What puts him ahead of those other guys for you?
Well, it was going to be a bit of a flip of the coin, but I wanted to start Lukey. But me and my footy brain is I just don't think handing out jerseys due to the fact they've played 8 solid games of first grade is warranted, especially at Origin level. My whole thing is, all right, Nano's done it before. He's playing, as good or maybe a little bit lower than Lukey at the moment, but this is probably the first time in a long time Lukey's able to string long, consistent games together like this, even though he probably is playing a touch better. I love to go back to the fellas that have done it before. You know that they're going to come out and turn out, and it allows, you know, a Lukey as an example who hasn't played Origin before to actually just be able to not have that pressure to start. He can come off the bench and make an impact. And if there's an injury or he comes out and absolutely lights it up, then the second game, at least he's got around in his mind, okay, this is what it's like leading me in for the week now. I've already got that stuff out of the way. Now I'm an 80-minute back rower who's going to come out and start. He'll have a little bit more experience under his belt and all the stuff that comes with the spectacle of Origin.
All right, well, that's our Origin sides. We'll throw them up on the Instagram as well so you guys get a bit of a visual. We might even do some little editing if I get some time over the next 2 days. We'll throw them here, maybe on a graphic or something on the YouTube. But otherwise, you can find them on the Instagram. But there you go. That's our Queensland sides. We'll do New South Wales next week.
We could do 3 New South Wales sides. They've got that much to choose from at the moment.
I know. We can do probably an A, B, and C's. Let's get stuck into the footy, mate. Obviously a big weekend, but Thursday night was certainly a great way to start the week with the Tigers getting a big win, 33-14 over the Canberra Raiders. Mate, Tigers outstanding. Really playing really good footy. And I tell you what, this might be a huge call, and you know I don't think a lot of people would agree, but just visually looking at this team, it gives me so much 2020 Penrith Panthers vibes. It's not funny. I look at this team and go, they've got a really good squad. They've built really well. They've got some really good experience into this team. Guys that have been in and around premiership winning environments. I look at this team and go, they've built something really good. Their juniors are good. And I think that they are almost ready to be a premiership threat.
Mate, I tell you what, they are doing a lot of things right. Like even the first, like I always like to see how teams start and then win a bit of adversity, because usually when teams start well, it does even up between that 25 to 35 minute mark when the other team can build a bit of momentum and get themselves back into the game, which the Canberra Raiders did. Right. So I found that to be interesting how the Tigers would take on the second half. And they actually come out and put on 2 quick tries and blew them off the park a little bit. The Raiders didn't have a lot of things go their way in the second half. And there was a little bit of an arm wrestle in between that sort of, 47 minute to about the 60th minute arm wrestle. And then the Tigers just ended up coming over the top of them. And that big try that Royce Hunt scored with a couple of minutes to go, just to light up the Leichhardt crowd at the end there, was absolutely magnificent. One person I want to throw to you, Alex Twal. Now, if you want to talk about someone who's grown in 5 extra legs and has really adapted and taken on his starting role and playing the best footy of his career, is Alex Twal. And I think that's a large part to do with Benji Marshall and what he has instilled in these blokes. Because you could rattle off probably 5, 6, 7 players who are in career form. Terrell May, another one. Dewey has taken ownership of his role. And I think that's come back to just environment. It just looks like they're just playing with so much confidence and happiness, and obviously putting 33 points on the Canberra Raiders, who are out of form, but still to score over 30 points in a game of NRL over at Campbelltown, you love to see it.
And you know what the key thing is as well? You noticed over the last couple of weeks how they, other than Luai going to visit PNG, how there's been no stories coming out about the Tigers in the media.
Yes.
Like that's such a massive turnaround for them. And I think you got to credit a bit of that to Shane Richardson and the work that he's done behind the scenes. Obviously, he's not there at the moment, but the way that they've built their roster over the last couple seasons to where they are now, where I'm looking at this team and going, they could probably, if they get to the back half of the year and they play some consistent footy, are a top 4 side. I think it's been a massive turnaround for them. I will say this, mate. You talked about Alex Twal. I'm going to give away a little bit of our episode for next week. At this stage, Payne Haas is out, obviously with injury. He's my starting front row for the Blues.
As in Twal is?
Twal, yeah.
That's a big call, mate. He's definitely in the mix, but then you got to look at blokes like his teammate, Terrell May, mate. You know what
the key thing for me that sort of has me just ahead of Terrell May?
What's that?
It's the defense.
Yeah.
His defense is flawless week to week. It's always consistently good. Sure, Terrell Mays is good as well, and he can get through a ton of work in big minutes. But I just think with Twally, he is such a great starting front rower, whereas I think you could get really good impact from guys like Terrell May, Aden Fanor-Blake, some of these other guys off the bench.
Mm.
If you're picking Alex Twal, if you're not starting him, there's really no point in having him off the bench because he's not an impact guy, in my opinion. He's a
Yeah.
really good starting front rower. He's currently playing 80 minutes for this West Tigers team. His defense is always consistent, and you want to not leak points early against Queensland. I feel like he's a perfect guy to have there through the middle just to iron out that first 20.
Yeah, and I do start with you either start him or you don't have him in the team. I fully agree with you on that. I think he's a starter, and I think that's where it sort of comes into a discussion of him being in the team because there's so much for New South Wales again to choose from. I want to ask you a question because I know you get some pretty bang on information. Do we know what was said between Taruva and Starling at the end of the game there? What that was over?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I wish I knew, but I
because
don't.
they were ready to go. They were ready to throw hands.
Yeah, it was an interesting one. It was a
Yeah,
real interesting one. I'm not too sure. Taruva is a bit lippy. I know that he's a little bit lippy.
yeah,
Starling is too, by the way. So
yeah.
combined, it's a
I
little.
love it. I reckon it's good after the bell. Let the boys go for a bit.
Yeah, 100%. Taruva on Fox League last week. Did you see that interview with on the Matty John show?
Yeah, because they had Yowie on the on the panel.
And they had Milky Jenkins there, and obviously
Yeah,
Milky Jenkins has replaced him as well.
yeah,
They were geeing each other up about Origin.
yeah.
Yeah, he's such a good guy, Taruva. That was weird to see them having that little moment there at full time, but
Yeah.
yeah, funny nonetheless. Mate, Api Coruscant obviously set to be suspended for 3 weeks with that hip drop tackle. That is huge. When we talk about New South Wales, he was probably on the bench before that suspension for me. That's going to be massive.
It's going to be massive for the Tigers. Who have the Tigers got in their nine stock to be able to bring him? I don't like. Jock Madden could do a job, but I don't see Jock Madden as a defensive nine in the middle. I think that other teams would use him as a bit of a spot where Api Coruscant is not a spot. Who have they got coming through that has the potential to play nine for him?
So they've got a 27-year-old Tristan Hope, who they played at 14.
He's been on the bench for a couple of weeks. Yep.
But they've also got Jared Hayward, who's quite young. I think he's playing a bit of flag and cup. I think he's playing a bit of a mixture of both.
Okay.
Very, very good. I think you might have seen him in the trials against the Chooks. He came on for about 20 minutes and just carved them to shreds. I think because Heilum Maluki had a big game that sort of went under the radar. Hamasi Makasini had a big game that went under the radar. But he's a good player, Jared Hayward, and I think with how well the Tigers are going, if there's any week to just throw a young kid in and see how he goes, maybe off the bench, you just get him there and start that Tristan Hope and just see how that combo goes. But I think it's the perfect week to do it for sure. So it'll be interesting. It'll be very interesting to see what they do there. But yeah, Api Coruscant for me, just in regards to his ruck recognition and how crafty he is out of nine, defensively as well. You talk about it, but he's not afraid to hit blokes hard. It's through big minutes. Yeah, it's going to be a really interesting loss because you take one piece out of a very successful spine and all of a sudden things might sort of start to change. I think Appy's a really key part of that spine and how they play their footy. So that's going to be their litmus test for me. Appy comes out, how do they go?
Exactly right. And I think a little bit of adversity would be good for the Tigers. They have delivered every time a little bit of adversity's gone their way this year. So it'll be interesting to see. They haven't really lost a player in the tier that Api Coruscant is within their roster. So I hope whoever they can get in there, they can keep this momentum going and keep themselves in that top four. I just want to bring into the Raiders now, mate. They just didn't look like they were keen to play footy in certain parts of the game. I thought their forwards went a little bit missing at times. I think that was also due to how well the Tigers were playing, but they just can't seem to get on the front foot in the games that they've played this year.
They do seem to have a bit of a confidence lapse currently. I even find that Tarpanay, with how good he is, he's top 3 forwards in the comp when he wants to be.
Yeah.
He's having a little bit of a lapse at the moment. We talked about Tino a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
I feel like he's been arguably to par with how Tino sort of started the year too. Even though Tino's obviously come out of that little lull now, Tarpanay struggled to a bit.
Yeah, and it's strange because from what I hear, the playing group loves Ricky Stewart. So I don't think it's a diss, a diss on the coach or anything like that. It just looks like they're just struggling to get themselves into fifth gear. And I think at times, not just this game, but other games, it's clearly shown that, they're struggling to get on the front foot.
Yeah, it's it's really I don't know what the solution is either, because you got good
No.
players there. They've got arguably one of the best forward depth in the comp. I think it definitely hurt them not to have good a number of middles on the bench. Like they had Dane Laurie and Jaden Brayley on the bench in this one.
Yep.
They used both of those guys, obviously due to Ethan Strange getting injured, but they used Joe Roddy and Morgan Smithies, and they only really had Chevy Stewart and Owen Paddy on the bench.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was a little bit of an interesting one. I'm not too sure what the go is, what if they're lacking a bit of confidence. Like, I don't know what the go is. I definitely don't think you can blame it on the 7, Ethan Sanders, because I still think he's done well despite how his pack has been going and lacking a little bit of confidence there. KO Weeks has some good moments, but even he's lacking a little bit of confidence at the moment. And it's funny, young Tamale, he asked to be dropped to reserve grade last week and had a really good game there. He came back and had a solid crack. But that was because he was lacking a bit of confidence, according to Ricky Stewart anyway. It seems a little bit contagious.
It is, and I think they lost a lot of confidence in that Roosters game. I watched that game, and it was one of those games where I'm like, mate, they could run away with it here. And all of a sudden, it was just like they decided not to play footy anymore. It was really strange, and they've been doing it for, large parts of games, and the other team has really taken advantage of their lapses.
I'm just having a look at the draw as well. So they had that. Well, it was actually against. They haven't played the Roosters this year.
What was it? The Rabbitohs, sorry. The Rabbitohs, I apologise, over in Perth.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah, it was South. We came back in the second half and nearly won the game.
Yeah. Yes.
That for me probably hurt their confidence a little bit.
Yeah.
But then they beat Melbourne. Like, even though Melbourne's not going great at the moment.
Yeah.
Like, surely that gives you a bit of, fuck yeah, we beat Melbourne. Let's go and pump some other teams.
Yeah, 100%. Well, even the way they started the year, beating Manly and Manly, like, that's huge.
Yeah, exactly. They beat Manly and Manly. Then they get dusted 40-6 by the Warriors. 14-10, they got beat against the Dogs. They got beat 34-22 against the Sharks. You know what? We're talking about Melbourne, obviously, the last couple of weeks and how poor they've been. Other than that win against Melbourne, the Raiders have been just as poor, and they were the minor premiers last year.
Yeah, and that's a massive fall for grace. That's what I'm sort of alluding to, that they've gone, mate, 5 steps backwards to where they were last year, because they were looking like they were going to win the comp last year.
Yeah. It's going to be super interesting to see if they do have a little bit of a bounce back game this week. Who have they got? They've got the Titans. I mean, surely you get up for that one.
Well, wait and see. You never know what the big beast up in the Gold Coast Tinos are like.
Yeah, exactly. That's true. Very, very true. The next game, mate, Cowboys and Sharkies, one of the highest scoring games of the weekend, around, I think exactly 80 points scored in this one. The Sharkies, the second half, what is doing? They just dropped off massively in defensive intensity, in my opinion. Just the kick chase wasn't there. Yeah, they just lacked a lot of intensity in this one. What were your thoughts?
100%. It was a game of touch footy at times. It was all attack. It didn't look like there was too much, defensive structures that were working. There was some really good individual play also, I thought. But yeah, the Sharks are so hard to tip too. Like, they just have this roster that just oozes talent, and then all of a sudden, you don't know who's going to turn up. But to credit to the Cowboys, mate, they're still going strong. Drinkwater, again, had a pretty solid game. Tuolungi did, until I see him he got himself a pretty nasty concussion. He ended up hitting the guy in his hip, I think. He ended up coming off the field. And I think Sonny Luke, I spoke about him at length at the start of the year. I thought once he sort of got his crack, he'd be really good for the Cowboys. He is still one of the most erratic nines in the competition, in my opinion. But I think he's done some really good things for the Cowboys since he's got his opportunity.
He has. He came on, obviously scored a try. I thought he was pretty good. I tell you what, though, Reid Marnie, I think he's sort of taken that as a bit of a bite in the arse last week with how Sonny Luke played. And he's come back in this side with a bit of a vengeance. He came out in that first 20 minutes and was lining blokes up along with Ruben Cotter. I thought that defensively, he came out and goes, you know what, there's this guy, Sonny Luke, that's trying to take my jersey. I'm going to come out and make a bit of a statement. I thought he played really well, Reid Marnie. I thought it was his best game in a Cowboys jumper.
Well, mate, that's the beauty of rugby league with healthy competition. You know, if you want to keep your jersey, you gotta go out and front yourself up to make sure that the coach notices you more than the next bloke. So that's a good reaction, I think, and it's good to have those sorts of competitions, especially in your number 9 jersey.
We do got to talk about it. Ruben Cotter, he was unbelievable. I think he made 20 tackles just before halftime. He was lining blokes up and hitting him with an absolute vengeance. We talk about Reid Marnie, the first 20 minutes. Ruben Cotter was just insane. They started him on the edge too in this game and had Big McHaley there at 13, and then they swapped them in the second half.
Yeah.
Cotter was outstanding.
He's the tone setter for the Cowboys. If you can see what Cotter does in that first 10 to 15 minutes of a Cowboys game, that's usually sets up how they're going to play for the whole 80 minutes, as well as what Drinkwater's been doing, obviously, as well. I think the Cowboys, too, while we're on, I think their back five is maybe, well, compared to other teams, is heavily underrated. I think they're getting through a ton of work, and they're actually got some really, really nice strike with Chester and Purdue in the centres at the moment.
I do. And look, it's actually a good little segue because I was going to touch on the back line. I think, and I was speaking to my old man about this the night after the game because we went to the gym straight after. I just feel like with the Cowboys, they've got such great attack at the expense of good defensive centres. Because at the moment, they've got a halfback and they've got a fullback in the centres at the moment. Chester's a fullback coming through grade. And Purdue was supposed to be the halfback this year, trained there in the preseason, but he's playing in the centres obviously as well, due to the fact that he's a better centre for this side at this stage. I just feel like, yes, they scored 46 points. They played really good footy. Purdue had a much better second half, but over the last couple of weeks, he's been a strike weapon for them. Chester was unbelievable again in this one, but they also leaked 34 points.
Oh, mate, I totally agree with you. This was both sides, though. It was just what just ended up how the game ended up turning out. It was just what you'd expect playing up in the sweaty conditions that is up in North Queensland. Great attacking game. There was some really good cohesive ball movement, but there was just some really bad one-on-one missed tackles. That looked like at times that they were sort of looking at the other person to do the work for them. It was more of an attacking, entertaining game of footy, as we've already stated. 80 points scored, and your Purdue and your Chesters, yeah, they are other come through and playing different positions. But at this moment in time, I think they've been outstanding in the centres. Now, I don't think they'll stay in the centres for their whole career. But at the moment, they're doing a really solid job as young men.
Yeah, they are. They're doing a great job there. I just feel like if they are going to stay in the centres for the rest of the year, I think they've definitely got to work a little bit on their defence, but it's probably the only criticism that I've got of them at this stage. Our boy, Jason Taumalolo, doing the damn thing. It seems like that statement from the start of the year has carried on all the way through. He's been outstanding for them through the middle.
Hey, mate, he just turns up and whatever minutes he's sort of getting at the moment, he's making the most of it. I've got a massive rap on him. I reckon he's top 3 front rowers to ever play the game. He's an absolute freak, super athlete, and he still continues to turn up and put his work in on the weekends.
You would have been pretty giddy about the Drinkwater signing, especially after this game.
Yeah, mate. I think it's a really great purchase for the Dragons. I think he'll come down and he'll bring a lot to them, and if he can get through this season with what he's been doing, he's probably putting himself in I think he's 4th on the Daily M rankings I've seen today, 4th or 5th,
Right.
Some of his individual brilliances has been great. So I hope when he gets down here, he's keen to hit the ground running for the club and bring in the energy and the form that he's played with this year, bring it for his 3 years that he's down at the Dragons.
Yep, 100%. Let's get stuck in to the Broncos and the Bulldogs, 32-12 the final scoreline. We'll touch on the Bulldogs first because there's only a couple of things I want to say about the Dogs.
Yeah.
Jesus, what is going on at the Bulldogs at the moment is looking really, really concerning. I do feel like, and I think it was summed up really well today on one of the other podcasts I was listening to, there are too many voices currently in the coaching staff. I think there's just too many voices there when it comes to selections, and they're chopping and changing. They're going back on what they've previously said. I feel like, yeah, it's just gone really lopsided to the point where you almost feel like Ciro, he's having to make excuses for other coaches' decisions when it comes to picking this team, it looks like.
I said it at the start of the year when they were chopping and changing, even last year, like they have so much talent that once if they finally just choose, to just stick with the group that they've got there in their 1 to 13, they'll be okay. It just blows my mind what they continue to do. Like it doesn't make any sense in rugby league world. Like you have these players there that are all ready to go, and you keep maneuvering, you keep trying to reinvent the wheel. That's what it looks like. I don't know if they're purposefully doing it, but that's what it looks like on the outside looking. Where I'm not even a Bulldogs fan, but I'm always intrigued in teams that do things that are a bit of left field. I think it's cool. But what they're doing just makes no logical sense. And I can go back as far as 2 weeks when they decided to um, not put Cherry on the field as an example and move Burton because it was due to communication. Like that just, to me, I don't buy that. I just do not buy that. And as you just said then, it sounds like excuses are being made up for certain decisions being made that are backfiring. And it's going to be interesting to see how the Bulldogs get themselves out of this because their captain went down Kikau with I think it's a shoulder or a pec. So he's a big out. So it's going to be very interesting to see what they do moving forward.
I want to throw this to you. I made a reel. I'm not too sure if you saw it this afternoon when I was walking home getting ready for this pod. But I made a reel saying that I feel like if the Dogs didn't get rid of Sexton and Marnie and Galvin went to Parramatta, I think both sides would be sitting in better places on the ladder than what they currently are this year.
I would have almost said the Bulldogs would have won the comp last year if they didn't do what they did. Mate, they were winning games and looked like they were at training. That's how well they were going. Then all of a sudden, they just imploded the whole squad. Like it just does not make sense what they're attempting to do over there.
But they're still imploding the squad. They put
100%. I agree.
Josh Curran in the centres.
I agree, mate.
Available. And they put Bailey Hayward, who they said was going to be their long-term 9, on the bench and played him for 15 minutes. And they played Jake Turpin for 74 minutes on the weekend at 9.
Yeah, it's mate. I can't tell you what I just think it's some of the decisions being made there make no sense for them to try and win rugby league games, in my opinion.
It's bizarre. I'm not too sure what the go is, what they do to get out of it. Like even I think the last 2 weeks from Leo Thompson, who has been a very hyped purchase for the Dogs, and right from myself included, because I thought at nights he looked a little bit deflated. He looked like he wanted to get out of there. It looks like coming to the Dogs, he's working specifically with different medical staff and getting him really right and fit for this season. Obviously does his calf just before kickoff. He's come back the last 2 weeks, and I've been super underwhelmed with his 2 games.
Yeah, he's trying to find his feet, so I'm not going to be too overly critical of him because a calf injury is something that does play with your confidence and wanting to push, that acceleration and those longer sort of meters into your legs and those faster sort of meters into your legs. So I think if he can remain healthy, he can build his confidence off the back of that. But the Bulldogs, mate, I just hope that they find their groove and get a team on the field and they just stick with them so they can build some connection.
Going into next week, mate, what are you looking to do in regards to the halves? Are you going to make a change?
I think it's too late in the season. Again, why? If this is the thing, they've put themselves into a corner now that, what are we, round 9 this weekend? So you've had 8 weeks and you've done a lot of jiggling and that around it, but now you want to go into the halves question. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. If I was them, I would be sitting down and going, what's our best 1 to 13? Who's available? Put it on there and just allow it to stay like that for 5 or 6 rounds, obviously barring injury and suspensions, and seeing what they can do coming out the other side. It just looks like they're trying to reinvent the wheel for some reason. Footy's very simple.
Yeah, 100%. Look, just quickly on the Broncos, outstanding performance, very dominant, and for a side that is very depleted at the moment, they completed at 93% against the Bulldogs. It is just craziness what they were able to do on the weekend.
Mate, Adam Reynolds. When he plays, it just look like it's like almost, you can almost say, mate, how much do you reckon they'll win by today? He just gives them that X factor. Not saying that he's going to step 10 people and run the length, but he just gives them that confidence to come out and you can see all the players when he's out in the field, they're like, we're a very good chance of winning the game today. I've possibly got my new favourite player in the NRL also, Xavier Willison. He's up there. He's up there with Big Jason Taumalola. He is. I'm not going to say he will fill Payne Haas's boots, but at the moment, it looks like he will be the guy to take over Payne Haas's role. Would you agree with that?
Oh, he'll be that dude when Payne Haas.
Yeah, I think so too.
He looks like that dude. 75 minutes try, 21 runs, 170 run meters, line break, 4 tackle bust, 58 post contact, 33 tackles. Like gun.
And the thing is too, they've been putting him on the edge. Obviously, they've got Pecora and Ricky back, so they put the big boy straight back on the highway in the middle third there, and he's just dominating still, mate. It's great to watch.
It is. It is. I will give a shout out though to two other guys that I think are not going to get a lot of raps, and that's Ben Tolty and Jack Goz in the goodness.
Massive fan of Tolty. I love that shit. I love him.
He like 42 tackles each on the weekend, both of them, and I think there was only one missed tackle each between them.
And I'm pretty sure it was his first start as in starting team in the NRL. And I tell you what, mate, he took the opportunity and ran with it. And I bet you the whole team come off the field and were very appreciative of his efforts, because not only did he do it in the starting team, they know he can make an impact off the bench, but he held his own as a starting player in the NRL on the weekend. So good on you, mate.
His first look in, how funny is this? I did a bit of digging on Ben Tolty. His first look into the NRL was a preseason trial in 2022. Do you know who he was playing for at that stage?
Who?
Newcastle Knights.
See, mate. So he's done some travelling.
Yeah. He was at Newcastle. He's been playing for the North Sydney Bears for years.
Yeah.
And obviously had a couple of trials, I think, in 2024 for Melbourne.
Yep.
And then obviously coming over to the Brisbane Broncos, he's killed it, mate. Absolutely.
Good on him.
Really,
I love that stuff. I love players that hang in there, mate, and back themselves, and the opportunity gets presented to them. Good on him.
And Jack Goz has been getting criticised a bit, as particularly at the start of the year with Madge. He's gone with him for the past 2 years as that starting back rower with a couple of injuries and whatnot.
Yeah.
Mate, he went into the front row out of position and played 50 minutes and made 42 tackles with only one miss.
He is a natural workhorse as well, so you know what you're going to get from him. You're going to get your tackles made, your runs done, and your 1% of plays. I do watch him when he plays in the back row, mate. He's always putting kick pressure on. He's tying in, so I've got no doubt they would have a ton of confidence in him to start in the front row with Tolty there.
And you're speaking of journeyman, I didn't even know this, but he was at the Rabbitohs in 2016. He made his debut with South Sydney.
I played against him. He was a babyface back then.
Yeah, wow.
Young fella.
2016, 2017 South, 2018 to 2021 Manly. Went to the Dragons for a year in 2022.
Now at the Bronx.
Yeah, played for the Cowboys between 23 and 24.
Oh, yep.
And then, Bronx.
Yeah, good on him, mate. Well, that's a guy that loves his footy, dedicated like that. Good on him. So he obviously has some really good rugby league traits for other teams wanting him to come play for their club.
Yeah, 100%. Look, we'll move on. Dragons, look, tough one. But I said this on my podcast. There was obviously a few frustrated fans after this game, obviously with not a turnaround with the assistant coach coming in. Yep. I don't think this was ever going to be like Foz and Manly. Manly's got a lot better of a roster, I would say, currently. More experienced heads, particularly in the halves. I just feel like, you've obviously got this young kid who, by the way, was probably their best player on the field, I'd say, on the weekend in Cade Reid. I don't think this was ever going to be an immediate turnaround, as much as it would have been great to see them get a win on Anzac Day and start to, turn things around. I think you guys are in a bit of a rebuild at the moment, and I think it's going to be a little while until you grab your first win. Mate,
I got overexcited. I put out a clip describing an ambush. Obviously, that didn't happen. I just feel, mate, everyone just needs to calm down a little bit within the supporting group. Like, I get everyone's frustration, but that, in my opinion, that's gone now, right? Dean Young's in there. He will do what needs to be done. Now, they were always going to go out and it could have ended up like it did, which it did, and it could have been a little bit different, right? But that's the way it's gone for that week. Now, they have the bye week. I've got no doubt Dino will have them in there, sharpening the tools, ready to come out of the bye and get a W. Now, what will happen with the club over the next 5, 6, 7, 8 rounds? They will start to win games. if the people that were in that Anzac Day game, I think that's going to be the team moving forward for a long period of time now, barring suspension and injuries, because that's what I think Dino will do. He wants that core group together. And I think we'll start to see some really, really strong Dragons footy. Now, we are a proud club. We don't want the wooden spoon, right? That's what we're playing for now, to not be a wooden spoon team. So I've got no doubt after this bye, it'll give everyone a freshen up. The two voices that have had to leave the club now, which is Flanagan and McInnes, are gone. Dino's got the full reins. Benny Cray's in there, which is massive also. And I think we will begin to see a new era of Dragon. I truly believe that. It's already started with the signing of Drinkwater, then Philip Sami. Now, this to me shows I think they will sign Dean Young as their full-time head coach due to those two signings. I think Drinkwater would not maybe have come if they didn't know who the coach was going to be for the next couple of years. I also think the next 3 or 4 games will add to that and be very telling. But as a Dragons man, I'm very confident with where the club will be going for the rest of this year and into years to come. And I think there may be 1 or 2 more signings that could come our way also.
I do think so as well. I said it on the podcast in the review. I think with Drinkwater coming over from the Cowboys and Murray Taulagi being shopped to rivals currently as we speak, I think it makes a lot of sense for Murray Taulagi to make his way to the Dragons, particularly since he was linked there before. You get him on the wing with Phil Sami, all of a sudden you've got a deadly little back line there, especially the back three. What I will say, positives, because I think we've got to stick with the positives here. Couchman boys made a massive difference that first 10 minutes.
Mate, and they do, mate. This is the thing what I like to say to the fans, right? And I believe this. It just didn't start, the season didn't start the way that anyone had anticipated. But I think it all started to fall apart a little bit when Flanagan actually come out before a ball had been kicked and said, "Oh, we're not going to win the comp." Like, I just didn't understand why he said that, because as you can see, those words have held, in my opinion, a little bit of weight through the whole start of the season. You know, we haven't won a game. You know, so what we have to do now is begin to build ourselves into a winning culture, into a winning team, and begin to have that mindset that we will be competitive and give people a run for their money. But with the game, I don't want to take too much away from the Roosters, because fuck, they were crash hard. They were doing some really silky things, even though there was some 10 in the bins that are very highly debatable with. I understand giving a penalty away, but not 10 in the bin for some of them. Like, now they're saying Lucia Leilua is going to get suspended for kick pressure on Sam Walker. Like, that's outrageous in my opinion. That's catastrophic.
He's out, I think. He's going to be out.
Mate. Oh.
There were some definitely tough calls throughout this game.
Yeah.
We won't go through them all, but that was certainly one where you sort of left scratching your head a little bit. What I will say, last thing on the Dragons, Cade Reid. You know what he reminds me of?
Who?
Sam Walker 2 years in.
Yep.
He reminds me. He just loves to take a risk. He knows that his side is going to come out and defend it if he gets it wrong. So he goes after the game. It doesn't matter what stage of the game. He's just going to go after it again and again and again. He nearly scored. It got taken off him. He had a try that he set up on that left-hand side, a cutout ball, I think got taken off him from obstruction.
Yep.
But he set up another 2. Like, he looks very, very good. And if you can start to get a bit of a turnaround, build a bit of momentum through the middle, and you can get him and Cook playing off the back of it, all of a sudden, you've got a real dangerous team.
Mate, I've ever since the sort of Cade Reid conversations come up, I believe he's got the IQ, the skill set, the ability. Competitiveness. I don't think that's in question. The only thing that's going to trouble him is the physicality, because he is a little fella and he is going to be a sport player. So it's going to be interesting to see how he holds that. To his credit, he was getting his body in front as best as he could on the weekend. It's the physics of rugby league. Some blokes are bigger than others, and that's how momentum is gained. It's how you can get up spot defenders, all those sorts of things. So I think once he sort of gets his head around that, and obviously Dino's got a ton of faith in him. So if Dino does, then I do too. So, you know, the only thing that I feel is going to be a really, really big challenge for him is the physicality the size of him in the games. But other than that, he will be getting try assists. He will be putting the ball in the corners when he kicks it. And I've got no doubt he'll begin to give some more confidence to the people around him.
Just quickly on the Roosters, because I won't touch on it too much. It was a domination, but they did complete 100% until 10 minutes to go in the first half.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, it was madness. Sam Walker probably had one of his better games, not just because he was getting tries set up for him and he was doing some crazy things with the ball, but he just looked super confident. And, going up against the Dragon side, they're not too crash hot at the moment. They took full reign of that, and they just went skits. Him and DCE had some unbelievable moments in this game.
They look like this could be a turning moment for the Roosters. Like they have been building into this sort of game, and unfortunately was against the Dragons. But they've been building. Like we were sort of writing them off at the start of the year. Can it work? Can it work? And I was saying you have to give these combinations times, right? And they will figure it out. Because Robertson's a great coach, and they have so much strike power and footy IQ within that spine that eventually, once it does start to click with the forward pack that they have around them, everyone just needs to fucking watch out.
I'll make a call for you. I don't think Billy Smith's going to come back into this team unless there's an injury.
Doesn't look like it, does it?
That spot down, don't you reckon?
Yeah, it does not look like they can put him in there unless there's a suspension or an injury.
Savala's been outstanding, and for a half to defend the way that he's defending there in the centres, just goes after it, very physical. I really enjoyed his performance on the weekend.
Yep. I totally agree with you, mate.
I think that's it for the Roosters. Really good through the middle. I'll tell you what, an unsung hero for the Chooks has probably been Nat Butcher for me. I've really loved mention that role.
Yeah, he does. He adds a lot. He's just up and down, isn't he? He reminds me of Tom Gilbert for the Dolphins. You just know what you're going to get. He's a hard ass. He gets in there, does all the hard work, and he's a vital cog to their rotation.
If you're the Blues, are you bringing him into the squad for experience?
No.
No.
Not Butcher. There's too much talent, mate.
Not even in jersey, just 23, and just have him there as a bit of experience. Not like that.
I think there's players in front of him, mate, in my opinion.
Yeah, fair enough. I'd consider it even just for the experience. They brought I think they brought Jenkins into the Blues camp last year for experience. And that was when he wasn't crash hot. He wasn't scoring 1,000,001 tries. Let's get to the next game. Warriors and Dolphins. Good game of footy. The Dolphins were very, very resilient. I thought, they threw a lot at the Warriors in the second half, but the Warriors' DNA that they've sort of built over the last couple of weeks and their defense was outstanding.
Yeah, the Warriors look like they're in a real healthy patch of form at the moment, just as a team. Like the Dolphins are starting to build, though, in my opinion. This is, coming off the touch-up that they got off Penrith the week before to come to the Warriors and get done by a whisker shows that they're only 80 minutes away from, I think, going on a bit of a run because they all look healthy. Their team looks like it's starting to build some really good connection. The thing that may hurt them is Origin time with a couple of players possibly being in that Origin arena. That may test their depth a little bit, but I think if they can get 1 or 2 wins, possibly 3 before the Origin starts, I think that could put them in good stead for the back end.
Well, you say that. So Avarillo's injured. He's going to be out. You've got Hammer, Origin.
Yep.
You've got Cobbo.
I've got Cobbo, yep.
Gilbert, Platt.
Yep.
Kula Kefu probably will get a spot.
Francis Molo might be in the mix there too, depending on what they're going with, possibly.
Maybe
Legler's there.
Legler in that conversation for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a couple of them.
Yeah.
I mean, what's stopping Laurie from putting Isaiah Katara at 18th man as well?
Nothing. Yeah, exactly right. Why wouldn't you bring him in there to have a little bit of a geeze around with the boys? So it's going to be very interesting what their team looks like and how much depth they actually do have to be able to win footy games over the Origin period.
Yeah, 100%. What I will say, talking about Max Plath, if there was any audition game for him to get a spot in State of Origin footy, this was it. He was outstanding.
Yeah.
I thought. Really, really good. 53 tackles, 75 metres out of 9. Played the full 80 minutes there as well. He was a workhorse.
Yeah, mate, he's definitely put his hand up, and he has for the last couple of weeks. Like, he does deserve the rap and possibly getting into that Origin sort of space. It's going to be interesting if he can keep this up because it does put him in good stead with the form that he's in.
Herbie Farnworth, that individual try was off its head. Nothing doing, and he comes back. There was only an inch of space. And he finds the gap there. He's been great the last couple of weeks, Herbie Farnworth. And even though he hasn't been lights out like he was at the start of last year, 15 tackles, 0 missed, 7 tackle busts, 3 offloads, 147 run meters. Absolute weapon.
He's in that top tier of centre. He's up there with McLean, Mitchell, who's the Crichton and Katoni Staggs. They're my five at the moment, including Farnworth. So there's my five in the centre position, because it just seems like at certain stages of the games and the past rounds they've just been untouchable when they've taken the footy field.
100%. Just quickly on the Wars, the forward pack. I mean, Fish, Ford, Clark. Clark in particular at 13 was outstanding.
Mate, yeah, so Big Fish ran for 162, Jackson Ford 207. That bloke's absolutely on fire. Then Aaron Clark's at 174. Now, Aaron Clark. Aaron Clark's he's starting to take a more of a ball carrying role, but he's mostly been known for his ball playing. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I feel like last year he was running a lot more, like he was standard front rower. But I think he said it in an interview last week that he's tried to, get that passing game out as well. A little bit like another halfback in the side. He made a little joke to one of the girls.
Big halfback.
Yeah, but he's played outstanding. And the thing is as well, Fish and Ford, 20 and 21 runs. Clark only had 12 runs and he had 174 run meters. Every time he got to the line, he was breaking through and making heaps of post-contact meters. He broke through quite a few times. And just because he's got that leg speed, super hard to handle. Barnett as well, unfortunately, he's going to be out next week due to concussion.
Oh, shit.
He's been super unlucky to start the year with a couple of injuries there. Val Munga, I think, has been really good off the bench too. And your boy Kurt Capewell, I thought, actually had a good game too on that.
He's solid, man. He gives you 7 and 8 out of 10 every week. He's one of those guys that you just need in your team. And Roger, I don't play a bad game. Tuivasa-Sheck, he's in there doing his role with what he needs to do with the team also at the moment. So it's a very good looking Warriors team. And I don't like to say it, but it has to be said, is that Boyd and Chanel Harris, they look in sync when they play together, don't they?
Metcalf's going to struggle to get back in.
Yeah, I know, mate. I know, and that's hard to say because of how good he went last year. But these two are just the dynamic duo at the moment.
I'll tell you what, speaking of locking down spots, that Lofi Khan Pereira, he looks like he grows another leg playing for the Warriors. He's added a kilos to his frames for sure, but he's a small guy, and every time he takes the ball back on those play 1s and 2s, he just looks like he's going to be running at pillows. He acts like he's running at pillows when he's running at brick walls. He's a gun. He has no fear, and he's been great. He's been really, really good.
Exactly what I was going to say. He's playing with no fear and a ton of confidence. I think it's done him a world of good being over there.
Speaking of no fear, you usually have quite a bit of fear going to Amy Park, but South Sydney had absolutely none. 48-6 the final scoreline against the Melbourne Storm. It is the first game that the Rabbitohs have beaten Melbourne in their history. And it is the biggest loss that Melbourne have conceded at Amy Park in their history.
And Latrell missed 4 goals. So it could have been way more than what has been put on the scoreboard. I don't even, as I said at the start when we were sort of talking, mate, I don't know how Melbourne are going to get themselves out of this, because the Rabbitohs just went on an absolute tear the whole game. It wasn't like 10, 15-minute periods. It was literally from when the ball was kicked, they just completed their sets and just built momentum through the whole 80 minutes, and Talis Duncan finished the scoring in the 78th minute. So, it was just an all-and-out onslaught by the Rabbitohs, and that's what they can do.
I will say this as well, and it's interesting to sort of break this down. This is probably the only thing we'll say on Melbourne, but they need to win, I think, 11 games to be mathematically in the 8. They have the next couple of weeks. They go the Dolphins at Suncorp. They go the Tigers, Parramatta, Dogs, Roosters, Knights into a round 15 bye. Now, you would say for Melbourne that every single one of those, if this was last year, every single one of those games would be a winnable game.
Yes.
This Melbourne side, I think they could possibly lose all of them.
There's a very high possibility with how they're playing. And plus, they're going into Origin, so they're going to, guys need to start finding their form. And I just don't know where they're going to get these wins from. I think they can possibly give the Dolphins a run for their money, but not the Tigers, not the week after.
No, not a chance. And then I mean, if Parramatta get a couple of guys back,
Yeah, the Bulldogs, mate, they're flip of a coin at the moment too. They might be able to knock them out depending if they want to make 5 million changes in the week. The Bulldogs going into the game.
yeah, but even then, that's only
It's still
two wins. Then after the round 15 bye, so not including the byes after this point, they go Canberra, Manly, then they have the Gold Coast, Roosters, Rabbitohs, Dogs, Sea Eagles, Panthers, Broncos, Sharks to end the year.
yeah, it's going to be tough for them, especially if they pick up 1 or 2 injuries or suspensions along the way. It's going to be very difficult. They'll be scraping the bottom of the barrel to fill a team at stages, depending on what happens.
Well, how many games is there left in the season? There is
Around 14 or 15.
27. It's round 9. There is 12.
12.
No, that doesn't sound right.
I'm not good at maths. Just there's lots of games still to go.
Neither do I. But I don't think they can win 11 of those games. So, if I'm going to throw it out there now, I don't think Melbourne make the 8.
No, they're very, 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 very big chance of not making the 8. They're a very big chance.
Let's talk about the Rabbitohs, though. This is going to be a nice little session for myself, being a South fan.
Yeah, do it, mate. Blow it up.
Mate, this is unbelievable what we're seeing from the Rabbitohs at the moment. But in particular, Latrell. The last 2 weeks have been unbelievable, and it is a really scary sight seeing Latrell Mitchell in this sort of form heading into Origin.
He's just found the perfect balance to inject himself in the game, and I think the team understands when they need him and when they can sort of just leave the Ferrari in the garage in certain periods of the game also. The big thing for me with Latrell is when he does these yardage carries, when he gets the balls in his hands and he starts to create the momentum on tackle 1, 2, or 3, that's when you know he's ready to go and he's primed for a big game.
Yeah, totally. And then just the try assist as well, the tap on there for AJ and then the other one.
Well, the thing is, he's done that the last couple of weeks and they haven't come off, right? You can see it's there. So I reckon he's gone and practiced it a little bit because it is another weapon in his arsenal. And if he can, out of 5 times, if he can start getting them up to around 3 or 4, there's going to be tries off the back of that.
100%. Now, look, in any other game, you don't have the confidence to kick a 2-point field goal with 11 minutes to go. Like, that's just...
Mate, that's rubbing salt into the wound. I reckon he's just done it for a laugh. Seriously.
Yeah, totally. He was outstanding. Dufty has run over 300 metres in the last 2 weeks. And this one was against Melbourne. To run 327 metres against Melbourne, off its head.
Well, I think Dufty's rejuvenated his NRL career, and I mean that as in he's come back, put himself in a position to be picked in the NRL, and now taking the opportunity with both hands. Now, depending if he stays at the Rabbitohs or not, because obviously Jai Gray's still got to come back. This is another discussion. Do you bring Jai Gray back into your team straight away, or does Matt Dufty hold the fullback jersey? Now, Dufty's there for 1 year. So this obviously gives him an opportunity to potentially sign a full-time deal, maybe with more years at another club moving forward, depending if they want to put that type of investment in him. Me saying that, the Perth Bears, not sure if they're looking for a fullback with 100 games under the belt at the moment, or even the PNG Chiefs also. But there's also other NRL clubs out there. Now, Matt Dufty has put himself in a really good position to be able to earn an extension, not only at the Rabbitohs, but maybe somewhere else with his NRL career.
But you know what even stands out to me? Like, he wasn't doing this at any other club. Not only the 327 metres, but 131 post-contact metres.
Yeah. He's playing very tough, mate. Yeah, and I think it's really good that people see this, is that when you get given an opportunity and these types of players come back to the NRL and really hone in and showcase what they're truly capable of, I think playing over in the UK was really good for him because it gives you an understanding of obviously a different part of the world, a different rugby league sort of competition. And maybe he's realised, oh, you know what, I have unfinished business back in the NRL, even though when he was in the NRL the first period of time, he was doing some really good things, but probably not at an ultra consistent level. Now he's come back and he's just playing lights out footy in the NRL, which is great. And I hope he continues to form because the Duff man obviously has put some big work in the preseason and through that start in New South Wales Cup. So good on him.
Big shout out to Sean Keppie. It's the Wayne Bennett effect all over again. Now, I think you'll remember a couple years ago, Wayne Bennett gives the starting role to Mark Nichols and Tavita Totola. They were bench front rowers. They were actually fringy front rowers at that stage. Gives them a license, just says, guys, you are our starting front rowers moving forward. Show me what you got. And they played outstanding. Obviously, Mark Nichols over the next couple of years earns a contract with the Dolphins. And
He's off and running.
And Totola is your starting front rower the next couple of years.
Yeah.
Mate, Sean Keppie, he has been unreal in his last 2 games. And the big thing for me has been his defense and how aggressive he's been. And the performance that he's had here against the Melbourne Storm pack, particularly when Stefano, I actually thought was probably their best middle. He had a really good game in weeks, so we sort of hasn't the couple of weeks before. Keppie was unreal against him and really just used his body, shut down that pack a little bit there, especially in the time that he was on.
Yeah, and he's a big body, so he can lay a platform for you when he's in form. And obviously at the moment, as you just said, he's probably got a ton of confidence from the way he's defending.
Yeah, 100%. He's killing it at the moment. I thought Totola was good. Mate, the bench forwards for South, have a look at this. So we played Hubner. He ran for 167 metres off the bench. 164, sorry. Keon ran for 210 from 21 carries off the bench. Yep. And then you got Ewan Aiken, who played a combination of edge and middle, and he ran for 13 runs for 113 metres.
Yeah. They're just falling into their roles and doing what needs to be done. Like Kalal Matangi took 21 carries, but every single carry was 10 metres, 210 metres altogether. Like, to have that coming off your bench, and he's an Origin and Australian player, like it just shows you how good the guys in the middle that are starting are going. But when you've got blokes like that coming off the bench wanting to take jersey 10 or 8 off you, healthy competition. It's the best thing that you can have in your squad.
100%. These guys have been great in this game. Super unlucky to lose Brandon Smith. I thought the way that he was sort of starting the game with his defence was really unlucky to lose a guy like him. But I thought that not only Cam Murray stood up and had some more carries and looked really good, but I actually thought Bronson Garlick was outstanding there at 9. He had to take a couple of extra minutes, and I thought he played really, really well.
He's very solid, mate. He's come from the Storm system, so obviously he's going to have that, DNA in him where he knows how to go and just go out there, make his passes, make his tackles, be in the kick chases, tie third man in, all that sort of stuff. So he's got that ingrained in him, and I think he's been a massive pickup for the Rabbitohs.
He has. He's been outstanding. Really, really good stuff. Who else is there? Tallis Duncan. 3 tries. Craziness. He's playing some really good footy to the point where he's almost the starting back row on the right side for the Blues.
He's white hot. Listen, you and you putting all these young blokes into the Origin team. Mate, it's getting out of control.
It is, but am I wrong? Am I wrong with Duncan?
He's definitely in contention, but there's a lot that goes in. Like previous to these sorts of games, Tallis Duncan, has been fighting to be in the starting team and been an impact player off the bench. Now that he's got his opportunity, 100%, he looks like a rep footy player. The difference is he's still got to do this for the next, 4 or 5 weeks before the team's picked. Then he's got to go through a whole series and then find another 2 or 3 gears to match the guys that they're going up against and who he's competing against for the jerseys. That's just the way I look at it, but he's definitely in contention, especially with the way that he played against Cameron Munster. He was not overawed by marking up against him and having to be tackled by him, and there was a couple of really good kick pressures that he put on Cameron Munster. So I don't think the profile of the players that he's playing against at the moment is affecting his ability, because he obviously has that confidence himself that, hey, you should be watching out for me now that I'm on the footy field.
I think that's an understatement. I think he completely took Munster out of the game.
He did well.
Yeah, he was outstanding. Look, and that's probably who he's going to be going up against realistically if he was to play on that edge. So I don't think it's too big of a call, especially if he plays like this over the next couple of weeks. And he has been like this over the last couple of weeks.
Well, you got just to give you clarification. There's Ola Kutawatu, and Hudson Young, right? So that's my little 2 cents in there too at the moment.
Yeah, totally.
Those two guys are probably going to be above him in starting in the back row.
Yeah, totally. Look, I think you talked about it before. Healthy competition, guys fighting for spots. We'll have to wait and see, but wouldn't put it past Laurie Daly to make some pretty big calls. I wouldn't put it past.
He needs to win game 1, Laurie. They need to win game 1, New South Wales.
Yeah. That's pretty much it for South City. Really good game across the board. We've talked about Humphreys in previous weeks, how good he's been. Cody Walker, his game plan at the moment just seems to be get it to Latrell Mitchell, and that seems to be working really well at the moment. So Bunny's doing good things. Unreal performance, and as a South fan, I still can't watch.
Mate, that's a great plug by you. You're loving it. Look at you. Ear to ear, the smile. Good on you.
Yeah, it's so good. Knights and Panthers, mate. You'll probably know a little bit more about this game than I did. I was out on Sunday with my uncle, so didn't get to catch the Sunday games. I watched this one a little bit today, but what were your thoughts on the Panthers?
Mate, just to make it nice and short, Penrith were very dominant. Like, I didn't see Newcastle winning this game before it, but Penrith just come out and just, at times, they're just so ultra professional, and you can't give them any sort of sniff. And I think at times that's what Newcastle did. Now, Newcastle only completed at 65%, which is obviously going to put a lot of pressure on you. But the Panthers were really low too in 77%, but they still were able to put 40 points on you. So I think that just sort of shows that if Penrith are around that 75% or above mark, and you give them those opportunities at your end of the field, they're going to come away with points more times than not. I do want to say, though, Dylan Brown's individual try looked fucking unreal. Jeez, it's good, those types of players, when they're in open space.
How good is it going to be when Ponga's back next week?
Mate,
Next week they get Ponga, Best, and Lucas all back at the same time.
they're like, they were the team to watch before those two fellas got injured. Then obviously it went over to the Tigers. That's in my opinion. The Tigers have sort of taken what the Knights are doing. But to have all those guys back on deck, who do Newcastle play this week? Are we aware yet? Have you got that in front of you?
Yeah, I can get it up. That's
definitely have to be watching that game.
It's us, South.
Oh, that's a cracker, Jack.
Yeah, that's good. Sunday.
Good, man.
It doesn't deserve to be the Sunday 2 p.m. game. Let's put it that way.
No, that's a Friday night game, 100%.
Yeah, that's.
Is it at Newcastle or in Sydney?
Yeah, Newey. It's in Newey.
Oh,
in the Hunter. That's going to be scary. Yeah, look, Newcastle, seriously, the next couple of weeks, there'll be a watch. I tell you what, from the little bits and pieces that I watched, the last couple minutes, they sort of looked like they were putting in a little bit of fight. And, Brown's individual try, he ran for 200 metres in this game, including that try, and had 2 offloads, 28 tackles, 0 missed, and 400 kicking metres. Like, he looked like he had a pretty decent game all round. It's going to be good to see a couple of these guys back.
Yeah, the real big difference was just like Penrith ran them off the park. And I'm going to give you from number 1 to number 7 on the meters made by these players. So Dylan Edwards, 292, 147 for our man Milky, 213 for Alamori, Casey McLean, 159, Toto for 227, Blaze Tarlangi, 124, and Nathan Cleary, 161. So, like, if you look at what their back 5 and their halves were able to do, it sort of paints a bit of a picture that there was some good ball movement, some one-on-one missed tackles where line breaks came into play, and the forwards obviously laid a real strong platform for themselves.
Yeah, totally. And look, Sunday, I didn't actually watch any of this game, so you'll have to take the keys on this one. What was the performance like for Manly and the Eels?
I tell you what, it's 33-18 to me. Looks like it's a bit of like it was a bit one-sided, but it really wasn't. There was a lot of passion that played with the game. I actually thought at the start of the game it was going to be really close because Travojevic scored in the 2nd minute, Brian Kelly in the 6th, and there was no more tries scored in the first half, right? So it was a really, really tight first half. Halftime was 7-6. So that paints a bit of a picture of what Manly were able to do in the second half and come out and sort of blow them off the park early because Lehigh scored on the 49th, Ruben Garrick the 54th, and Jamal Fogarty scored a great try off a Travojevic offload. I think his name is it Ben Travojevic on the edge. Nice little carry, skipped across field and put an offloaded for Jamal Fogarty. You did about 50-55 metres, burnt the fullback. That's when I think there's not the Q went in the rack, but Parramatta probably lost a bit of confidence. They did get 2 late tries and sort of fought their way back into it, but Saab and Falalo ended up crossing for Manly, and they got away with the win. And Manly look like they're just going strength and strength with having Kieran Foran as their coach and playing with a ton of confidence, mate.
As I said, I obviously didn't get to catch this game, and how I sort of got an idea of how the team went was the Supercoach points, which obviously isn't a great indication of how the game went. But how did our boy Tolu Kula look at fullback?
He looked good, mate. I think he'll start to build more into the role the more he's there. He ran for over 200 metres, so he is getting involved a lot. And he's just one of those players, mate. Sometimes it's like Travojevic. Obviously, he's not Travojevic, but you can just give him the ball and he'll do some freaky shit. You know what I mean? He has the speed, the agility, and having him out the back now of that lead, it's very dangerous. It's going to be very dangerous, especially when I would guess Big Tommy Turbo will come back into a centre position to go out the back, Kohler, to Trbojevic is going to be a very, very powerful weapon.
Tell you what, I will say Ben Trbojevic, like Hamolo Olakawatu under Fosball, has been outstanding, and he looked good in this game off the stats. But Ben Trbojevic has improved out of sight since
He has, mate. And the reason for this, I think Foz has probably put a lot of onus onto the back rows to get themselves involved in the game, and they're actually getting him the ball. If you notice, Manly the first couple of rounds when Seabold was there, it looked like they were getting turned under a lot and not even getting sort of hit on those plays. Whereas now, you have a look at them; they're both over 6'3". Well, Olakawatu's almost 7'5". He's a big unit. I'm just joking, he's not 7'5", but he's a big unit, and they're starting to use those sorts of players, to build momentum. But Trbojevic got the ball, mate, and he skipped across field, got in between, and was just a nice little tidy offload to someone pushing in off him. So there's a lot of good things happening at Manly at the moment.
And our boy Ruben Garrick, what was your read on him in this one?
He always competes, mate. He always gets in there and has a crack. I think he's just the whole backline. They are all looking like they're playing in sync with each other, and it's very good to watch. I just like the way Fogarty and Brooks are playing too. To be honest, I reckon they're playing very, very strongly.
Yeah, it was good to see on the stat sheet him getting a try. That's good to see. Love that. For the Eels, where did it go wrong for what's the matter, Parramatta?
Oh, I don't think it. I think Manly just played. Like Fogarty ran 50 metres off a great offload there try. Do you know what I mean? So that's sort of where it was, where some things just Manly bring out some brilliant plays to be able to capitalise on some points. Now, I think Parramatta were very competitive through the whole game. It just ended up, they got 3 quick tries maybe in 13 or 14 minutes, Manly just after half time, and that sort of opened the game up a little bit. And Parramatta did show some resistance back, but it just ended up the Eagles were too strong. I think Parramatta will get a lot of confidence out of the game.
Any standouts for Para in regards to the pack?
I think they all. I wouldn't say standouts. To be honest, I think they all sort of did what they needed to do. It just wasn't enough on the day. If you have a look at their stats, no one ran over 100 meters for them in the front row. Sorry. Luca Marotti.
Yeah.
Luca Marotti, yeah, he did. He ran 107, but other than that, no one really ran over 100 meters. So that sort of paints a bit of a picture for you.
Dylan Walker obviously injured, I heard. He's going to be out.
Yeah, he got hammered. He got hammered playing an inside ball by Ulukawatu. It was like he ran into a tree.
I've heard a few Manly fans saying it was a shoulder charge. Did you get that sort of vibe or not?
It will be classed as a shoulder charge potentially, but all it was a little man playing an inside ball, not really looking where the other big man was, and he just got hit and he wasn't tensed, and it just, it got him an absolute perler just under, like where his lad is under his rib cage. It was an absolute bone rattler.
All right, mate, well, let's get stuck into the tips. Round 9, brought to you by our good friends at Bearbet, obviously. Let's get stuck
Just a quick question. I think I beat you on the tips last week too, for being honest.
I'm double checking that. I'm
pretty sure I got 5 or 6.
That's unacceptable for me. Let's get stuck into the tips. Dogs and Cows, your Friday night game. Obviously no Thursday game with the women's origin, which is going to be good for watch. That's always a good watch. But the Dogs and the Cows, obviously Friday night, 6 p.m. Dogs, the favourites, $1.73 here to the Cows, $2.12 at Accor Stadium.
I'm going to go the Cows, mate. I'm not convinced with the Dogs yet, and the Cowboys have a ton of points in them.
Yeah.
And I'll explain it more. The Cows have a ton of points in them. They're not strong defensively, but I just don't think the Dogs have 30 to 40 points in them, even though the Cows aren't the most strong defensive team, in my opinion.
But you know what the issue with the Cows is, and we spoke about it in the review, it's that they can also leak a lot of points.
100%. I don't know where the Dogs are can do that though at the moment. Yeah. That's what I'm alluding to.
You know what? I'm going to go the Dogs.
You should.
That's a bit of point. Hopefully they can get the job done for me. Friday night, Storm and Dolphins.
I'm going to the Dolphins, mate. I'm going to the Dolphins.
It's the first week in this whole losing streak for the Melbourne Storm that they're actually not the favourites in the game. They're Dogs to the Dolphins, $1.63. Yeah, I'm going to go the Finns as well at Suncorp. Titans, they are the $2.08 underdogs at home against the Raiders at $1.78 favourites.
I'm tipping the Titans.
Yeah.
I'm tipping the Titans at home. I can see them winning this game.
Same. I'm going to go Gold Coast. Eels and Waz.
Eels.
$82. Yeah, for the Eels, $1.43 for the
I'm t-
Warriors.
this is my upset. I'm tipping an upset. I reckon the Eels can knock the Warriors off. I think the Warriors have you mentioned Barnett going, and I just think the travel may throw them a little bit, and I think the Eels would have got a little bit of confidence out of that Manly game, even though they didn't win.
Yeah, I'm going Warriors. I can't see them losing that one.
Yeah.
Roosters Broncos, probably the game of the round, 7:35 on your Saturday.
Where's it at? I'll go on the Roosters.
I
That's hard for me to say too, because I'm a massive fan of the Broncos when Adam Reynolds plays.
Yeah, well, and your Roosters obviously just got done.
Yeah.
Your Dragons just got done by the Roosters.
Yeah. No, I've got the Roosters.
That's
a cracker game too.
And this is the thing, because we said it a couple of weeks ago with the Chooks. The Chooks lose games they shouldn't lose. I'm going to go Broncos here for the upset.
Yeah, it's not, mate. It's a flip of a coin almost.
Yeah. I'm gonna go Broncos to get the job done there as the underdogs too. Good little value. Knights and Souths. I'm on
the Knights at Hunter, and they've just got all their superstars back.
Yeah, this is the game that scares me.
This is a really good game,
especially because we just beat the Melbourne Storm. We might come in with a bit of swagger, and then the Knights throw us off. I'm gonna go Souths, but I think it's gonna be a close game.
Yeah, you can't not tip Souths, mate. Yeah. I'm going the Knights.
Sharkies and West Tigers, Sunday 4.
Tigers.
I am gonna go. Yeah, the Tigers. I can't. Yeah, the Sharks are no. And then the Panthers and the Manly Seagulls.
You can't tip against the Panthers.
No, you cannot, especially at home. All right, there you go. That's another week done and boosted for Momentum. Again, guys, your 10% off codes Momentum with Breathies, obviously the Recovery Kings. And one thing that's great for recovery is obviously looking after your nutrition as well. And on-track meals help you with that. 10% off with the code Momentum. Jakey, good to see you, mate. Good luck with the Run Nation training, and keep us tuned in as well with how it all goes and who are some of the favourites that poke their noses through are.
Cheers, mate. Thank you very much, guys. Bye-bye.